All right, welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III here with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. And I'm joined by my co-host, Zan Horlacher. How you doing, Zan?
Doing good, man.
This guy is a stud. I tell you what, entrepreneur, very successful, speaker, business guy. He's had restaurants, he's networked, built global distributions all over the world. We're going to have a lot of new interviews and segments we're going to be doing together. So I'm super excited for that. So with that said, we're very, very fortunate to have today with us an amazing guy, Andrew Cordle, who is a speaker, author, international entrepreneur. And you've been working with him quite a bit. Why don't you kind of give a little bit of information to people about him?
Yeah, dude, my pleasure, man. This is one of my dear friends, and had the opportunity probably over the last several years to spend more time with him than I have my own family. So we've got to know each other pretty good. His name's Andrew Cordle, lives in Atlanta right now.
I live in Florida, but yeah.
Florida, well, I think a couple different places, yeah. Andrew and I have had the opportunity to travel not only internationally, domestically, probably every major city within the United States we've been to. Just a real good friend. We've gone out to dinners. Andrew he's got a big heart, always seems to be picking up the tabs on our dinners, which is nice.
Ready to get in on that.
Yeah, so I'm telling you, he knows a lot, and you learn a lot during this time, but barbecue is one of them as well, and he's turned me on to barbecue. So I wasn't a barbecue fan until I met Andrew. Let me tell you a couple things that I do know about him. Andrew, over the last 15 or so years, has flipped over 1,000 homes. He's an Amazon 2-time best-selling author. Generated over $100 million in sales.
It's huge.
Just a real entrepreneur, business savvy person, understands where money comes from, what money does. He'll talk a little bit about that on this, but probably more than anything, he's just a dear friend and a man that has a ton of integrity. So, Andrew, we really appreciate you being here with us today.
Yeah, we don't know how you find the time, but thanks, man. It's good to have you here. How are you doing?
Very, very glad to be here, man. I was excited when Zan called, and like Zan said, man, me and him are more than business associates, man. Me and Zan are very good friends, and it was my privilege and honor when he asked me to be on your guys' show, and so I'm happy to be here, man.
Well, listen, like I said, we're super grateful, and for those of the listeners that haven't met you yet, I want to start just before we jump into a whole bunch of great value. I want to get into a little bit of your background. Can you just tell us a little bit about where you're from and, what kind of sort of was the early stage behind the scenes to your success? Because you've got some massive success. I mean, generating $100 million just in the last 3 years of sales. I mean, tell us a little bit of the backstory that's kind of relatable to the average person.
Yeah, sure. I grew up in a family of teachers, and that's actually what I was kind of on part to do. Was kind of be a third generation teacher in my family. So my family comes from a teaching background. My mom and dad, my sisters are teachers, my aunts and uncles were teachers. And I went to college and got a degree, master's degree in education to become a teacher. And I was headed down that path, kind of like everybody else. And I grew up in a very, what I would call lower middle class family. I mean, we grew up off of a WIC and kind of food stamps and so forth. And we didn't own real estate. We lived in rental properties growing up as a kid, and really knew nothing about business and or money. It was just kind of a taboo topic in our house. And I think that is, as I travel with Zan and so forth, you kind of see that across the world is that topic of money is kind of a hush-hush topic. And, we're almost taught as kids the 3 things we don't talk about is money, politics, and religion. And that kind of is just instilled upon us to never really bring those topics up. And my family was no different. And so when I went to college, I got that degree. And in college is when I realized I wanted nothing. I did not want to be a teacher. And the truth be told, it was simply because of money. That was why I didn't want to be a teacher. It's not that my passion is teaching. It's what I do now. And I love teaching. It's inside of me. But when I saw the money and said, wait a second, man, my family's been teaching for generations now. And the truth be told, we were all broke. And I said, man, there's got to be a different path, to try to solve these generationally poor household that I grew up in. And not just my branch of the family, but, my cousins and so forth. We were all, in that same kind of circle there. And so I grew up in a family like that and went to college, and I paid my way through college. My parents did not pay one dime of my college, and I got the degree, and I think I did it more to help or maybe the word is satisfy my mom and dad's maybe vision there. And then when I got out of college, I immediately went into real estate. And kind of those last 2 years in college, although I was taking classes in education and teaching, I would be in the back of the classroom reading books on investing in real estate and how to flip a house and what a wholesale deal was. And I'd have my book open, and then I'd have or their book open, and then I'd put a book inside of it and just read, trying to understand how that game of real estate and money was really played. So that's a little bit of a background of where I came from. Crazy enough,
you seem like you were really already driven. Was there something that caused that? Like what caused you to be so driven to go outside that, get into real estate and stuff? I mean, without getting too far ahead, was there a factor that drove that?
I think in studying human behavior and I'm now on my, I think a lot of entrepreneurship is born. I think there's a different DNA that makes different people up, and as an entrepreneur, there's a certain amount of risk that we have. There's sort of ingredients that we have inside of us that when you find an entrepreneur like yourself, like Zan, like me, it's funny because when the three of us get together, the conversation is very in tune immediately because we have kind of the same DNA of going out and exploring on our own and making those steps and not having this analysis paralysis that so many people that are not kind of that true entrepreneur get stuck with. So I think, to answer your question, I think a lot of it you are born with inside of it. Now, I'm not saying that there's not just that. There's that side of it. I think there's some of that DNA you're born with. And then I think where a lot of the drive came from me, and Zan knows a lot of these stories, I used to tell him all the time, I grew up in a household of a dad that was extremely driven and would drive me to push and push and push. And I tell Zan the story. I played football in high school, and my dad was a coach there. And it didn't matter what I did. The story goes, I could run 6 touchdowns in a game, score 6 different touchdowns, and in the fourth quarter, I could run a touchdown back on a kickoff. And after the game was over and we were at home digesting the game, my dad would say, "Hey, on that last touchdown, did you twist your ankle? Because you look like you were running super slow on that run." And it was that constant of, which meant go back to the sprints, go back to your conditioning, because on that last one, you look really, forget the other 6 you did, that last one you really sucked on, And I think those ingredients of, in my life, of kind of being born with that natural desire to go and push and push and push myself naturally. And then having a father that was very driven like that as well, it's kind of what made me do it. I mean, and again, if I tie this back into college here for you, uniquely enough, when I was in college, I want to give an illustration to tie that point together for you, for the listeners. When I was in college and I got my first job at UPS, and I was going to college in the daytime, working at UPS in the evening shift. And it was kind of my first job that I ever had. And dude, I knew within, a month after working at UPS, this was not for me. Me standing here throwing boxes, like it was a shell shock. And I remember saying to myself, if I got to do this stuff for 50 more years, dude, I would rather just go move to Hawaii and live on a beach as a bum than be controlled in this type of a work environment like this. I mean, that's what I'm saying. When you're born with it, dude, it's like, man, it's like like the coronavirus. Like, you don't want anything to do with it, man. Get away from me. And but I didn't have any money. I was obviously like any other college student. I was completely broke. I didn't have any money. And but I was looking passionately trying to find something to do. And crazy enough, I was at a Walmart in my freshman year when I had this job at UPS. And I didn't have any money, and I had a 2-liter of Mountain Dew and a can of Pringles. And I was going to go buy that kind of as my lunch, if you will. And to kill some time, I stopped by the magazine aisle, and there was a magazine called Small Business Opportunities. And I picked up that magazine because I was kind of in this mode of looking for an answer. And I just sat down on the floor of Walmart, those white tiles, and started flipping through this magazine and looking at these ideas. And a lot of them I couldn't do because they were like, franchise this business or buy this I'm like, dude, I got $20 right now, And Matter of fact, I didn't have $20. I had like $5, and that was all I had until my next paycheck. And I literally remember how to make a decision at 18 years old. Do I want this Mountain Dew and chips for lunch, or do I want this magazine? And I chose the magazine. And I was dating a girl at the time, and probably the next like 6 or 7 dates was me and her flipping through this magazine, looking for ideas. And long story short, I ended up starting a window cleaning company because it was the cheapest thing that you could possibly do, which do window cleaning. You need a squeegee and water. And so I was like, well, I got that. And in college, I built about a $500,000 window cleaning business by the time I left. And I had contracts all over Chicagoland with McDonald's and Arby's and you name it, Buffalo Wild Wings. And I ended up, when I got out of college, I sold that business. I split it in 3 different ways and sold it to 3 different people, and kind of used that to start my career of real estate investing. So that's why I said, like, you're kind of born with it. I think there's pieces of it you're born with. And then it's you're kind of harnessing that entrepreneur, and you got to feed it, in my opinion. It's just like Zan's a great athlete and works out a lot. And it's like anything, it's a muscle, and you got to condition it and right. Take care of it. And that entrepreneurship, you have to take care of it and nurture it and feed it, which is, go back to George, it's what the daily mastermind is, right? It's that daily feeding that I think as business owners, entrepreneurs is so important that we do in our lives is feed that drive, desire there. So,
well, and everybody's at a different point.
That's it, man.
Yeah, no, it's good. And everybody gets at different points in their lives where these things kick in, but it's a nonstop battle, right? Was there a point that you had that was a turning point? Like, was there, or did it just naturally gravitate into the success you're getting to? Before we kind of get into some of the concepts we really want to teach some of our listeners, did you have a real turning point? Did you have a point where you really had to kind of emphasize a change into where you are now, or did you just evolve into that?
I'll give you 2 answers here. The first one is piggybacking on what I was building off of right there in college. I just naturally kind of grew into that. There was not a quote unquote turning point right there. There was the pain, which I think a lot of people go through, of like, oh my God, I can't take this job anymore. There's got to be a better solution. Yeah. Which a lot of times that maybe, some people hit that wall in their 30s or 40s or 50s. Fortunate for me, because of my, entrepreneurship and my probably ADD, my first job, 30 days into it, I was like, oh my God, I can't take this, Yeah. But, so from there, you could call it a turning point there, but, it's just a natural progression from there until 2008. Now, in 2008, the market crashes. I was in real estate, market crashes, and I take a bloodbath. I just take an absolute beating. And in 2008, when I lost everything, I would tell you is the actual turning point that I made. And it was a massive turning point in the way that I did everything. And I think without that crash there's no way that I would be where I'm at today, and the growth that I had from, hey, I was doing some deals, I was making some money, I had some nice cars and I had a nice house and all that stuff. But it wasn't sustainable success. And I love those 2 words as entrepreneurs, that we have to understand not just what success is, but what sustainable success looks like. And there's a difference between those 2 things right there that are very important. But in 2008, when I crashed, is where I kind of had to reset and look back and say, okay, what all was wrong? And that's where I would tell you the turning point of my life was the growth from, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I've got a business, I'm making money. There's like that level that's there. And then, as you know, George, there's a whole nother level of success and entrepreneurship that not many people get to. And your great question here was, you're trying to find out for your viewers where that turning point was. And I would tell you, I think everybody has a turning point for the most part. And for me, it was in 2008, after I already had success, which is kind of unique that there was already the success. So one thing I try to tell your listeners today, if you're sitting here listening today and you have success and you are successful and you have those things that you kind of people naturally want because of our human nature per se, but you're still in that kind of world of really living still paycheck by paycheck. Now, granted, maybe it's deal by deal or contract by contract or closed deal. I mean, I would try to inspire you and tell you there's a whole nother level out there. And
you made a huge point that a lot of people, they don't realize that you had a really good perspective on it, because a lot of people don't realize that some of the big issues that happen in your life, especially as entrepreneurs, things outside your control, can actually be the moment that really kicks you into the next level. It's sort of like most people would see those as problems, but that's when sometimes you need that nudge, number one. And number two, if you can learn to see that as a time for you to shift, that's when the most success can come. I mean, that's big.
So anytime there's an obstacle, I know a lot of successful people that look at obstacles and they say, I know that this is an opportunity for me to grow. But can I recap something for you? Because I think you throw out some good nuggets there, Andrew. Ever since I've known you, you're just a driven person. You eat, drink, and sleep, success, money, what more you can be doing, how can you help people? I mean, sometimes way into the evening, we get texts from you, and crazy. I just think, is he not sleeping tonight, or is he eating some kind of a chocolate bar in bed? Or
I was just thinking about that when you were talking right there, bro.
Anyways, but even back to at a young age, you felt some pain, or there was something there that you wanted to accomplish more, and you were willing to, sacrifice Mountain Dew and chips to at least start looking for opportunities. And so I'm kind of looking at this thinking of our listeners. We've got the mom and pops that are out there that aren't satisfied with what they're doing, and you've given some really good ideas to say, you know what, start looking, at least make some actions in your lives to start doing some things or finding some things that can change your life. But that's been a part of you, and that, I guess I'm just kind of recapping and saying, is that what they can do? I mean, what can someone do that's looking to better their lives that they're not doing now? What actions can they be taking daily?
One thing, a lot of those are great points that both of you guys brought up. One of the things that I would tell you is that, again, I have a unique perspective because I get in front of and speak to so many entrepreneurs on a weekly, yearly basis that I'm able to kind of see a lot of different stuff out there. And what I would tell you is that a lot of entrepreneurs, I believe, they get stuck. They're in a rut. They won't admit it, but they're kind of stuck.
For sure.
And because of our pride, entrepreneurs, we are driven, we have this ego, and we have this pride. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's part of kind of our DNA. We want to be successful. And so I think what I would tell you listeners is, first of all, if you're listening, be real with yourself. I know for me growing through these stages, there was this time where I was almost had this entrepreneurship facade on, where my friends and my families and those around me would naturally just think, because of how I portrayed myself, that I was mega rich or mega successful. And yes, I did have probably more than others that time. I had more money. Yes, I had more flexibility, and I would go on vacations. So it definitely gave that perspective to people. However, what I would tell the viewers is, don't get caught right there, because I'm just trying to tell you there's other levels that are out there that you need to get to. Because if you'll get to those levels and break through, and there is sacrifice involved, there is that time commitment involved, there is that pain and growth pains that are going to be involved there. But if you're willing to kind of be vulnerable a little bit to yourself as an entrepreneur, if you'll get to those next levels, it actually will start giving you what you really want. Because most people, when it comes to entrepreneurship and success, they're not looking to be greedy or to, make $1 billion, and they're not really looking for that. They're looking to change their family. They're looking to change their, not just their personal family, but family of family. They're looking to take care and grow who they are and their family is. And to do that, though, you got to have money. And for most entrepreneurs, myself included, I did not have that type of money prior to 2008. I didn't have that. I had what I kind of call that facade money prior to 2008. Everybody thought I was mega wealthy. I live in a 10-bedroom, 12-bath house, during that time frame. But there's other levels that I wish your viewers would take some perspective internally and kind of seek that out and say, am I really reaching my potential right now? Or is there other levels out there that I need to be at?
Yeah.
And push that through? And you guys know what I'm talking about, George. I know.
No, but I love hammering that point home, because I got to tell you, what people need to understand about you, and the why I love your perspective, is up until 2019, I mean, you've literally been in front of like 50,000 individual students.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you not only have the knowledge of the success and the entrepreneur and the business and real estate, but you see what people are doing and you're seeing that they get stuck. And I think it's one thing most people would agree. They say, yeah, people get stuck. But it's another thing to realize and say to yourself and be honest and authentic and say, I'm not where I want to be. And now I need to look outside that and I need to go and notice there's other levels. And that perspective coming from you is good because it's a third party perspective. It really gives you, it gives us a great segment actually into this whole conversation about money, right? Because you've gone from being in front of just tens of thousands of students and you've got a lot of perspective on that to now being and associating with and working with and talking to and interviewing guys like Gary Vaynerchuk and Grant Cardone and Kevin O'Leary and all these, celebrities and big names. So you have a perspective both from students and also from the super successful wealthy. Is this why you've kind of now shifted your focus from all the mega success in real estate and business to this discussion and concept of what is money and what does money mean to you? I mean, is that part of why you gravitated to that because of your perspective? Tell us a little bit about what your main focus is on that and what it is.
Yeah, no, George, you're hitting it on the head. I've been massively blessed and I have kind of these two worlds of, I'm the guy that was, like you said, speaking around the world to tens of thousands of people at a time, to rooms for hours at a time to days at a time that were all entrepreneur, business-minded type of people. And then the other side of it is I have this network where, if you follow me, you'll see, I had a call today with Cardone right before this right here, going on a kind of a project that we're looking to do together. But with the Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank and the Gary Vaynerchuks and so forth. And really where the shift came for me was when I was kind of meshing these two worlds together of, okay, why is there this like massive difference here of here's this ginormous bowl, if you will, of all these entrepreneurs and business owners that are out there. But then there's this other level of the O'Learys, the Gary, so forth, the Vaynerchuks that are a lot different. And I was trying to find kind of that secret, what were they doing different, and I was kind of in this bowl until the 2008 timeframe. I was in the same bowl over here of this, that, I still say that I was living the paycheck by paycheck. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs will disagree with me.
Just at a different level.
Yeah. Just understanding it. I'm just telling you, most people are, especially if you're that DIY type of entrepreneur. And again, I'm not against that. I'm just trying to be realistic with your viewers and so forth. And that's when I mesh these two things together. And here's what it came down to. And this is where my kind of tracking back my success, I think kind of parlays right here, which is, when you understand these two different levels here, the wealthy individuals structure things differently and play the game of money differently than I used to, and that the majority of all entrepreneurs are.
Totally.
It's not the same game.
Yeah.
And until entrepreneurs truly understand that, they're kind of just on a hamster wheel. And that goes down to basically two things. I'm gonna let you guys jump in and I'll take wherever you guys want to go. One thing, there's two big pieces here. One thing is entrepreneurs don't even understand the actual game. And it's hard to create money and wealth, particularly wealth, when you're not even playing the right game. And what I mean by that is when you talk to most entrepreneurs through the years, myself when I was doing it, I would ask them what is their business, meaning what game are you playing? And the answer is always whatever they do, right? I'm a hairstylist, or I own my own salon, or I'm an MLM, or I do real estate, or whatever it is. Or I own restaurants like Zan. And what they call the game is that business. And what I realized by getting around the actual highly successful wealthy people is the game is not that, the game or their business is not that restaurant. The game is not that coffee shop they own or MLM that they do. The game is money. It always has been. It always will be. The game that these entrepreneurs, your listeners, the game that I'm playing, the game that I believe everybody here that is entrepreneurs playing is the game of money. The vehicle of how you choose to move that money, okay, that's your business. what happens is you'll say, what people get stuck is when they say, what's the game? They'll say, oh, well, my game is this coffee shop. No, that's your vehicle. That is how you choose to move money. But the game itself is money. And to be more clear on this point, the game itself, when I say is money movement. You say, I don't care what anybody on this app, on a podcast, on YouTube that watches this, I don't care what business you do, don't trick yourself. The game is money movement. And until you break through and understand that the real game is money movement, you're going to be stuck in your vehicle. And your vehicle will never produce what you're actually trying to get it to produce. Because again, it's like two different games. You're at the baseball field over here at the Sandlot, and the game is actually over at the Dallas Cowboys football stadium. We're not even close to the same thing. So number one is understanding that the real game is money movement. And that means that to be successful, to have wealth, and success and wealth are not the same thing. I think they're different. But to have wealth, you have to play the game of money movement. And that means that money must move, period. End of.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So must move. Zan, in life, go ahead, George.
So Zan, I was curious because don't you notice that these 7-figure guys, the 7, 8, and 9-figure type mentors that were around, number one, they just think different. So the fact that I would back up one more step and say most people don't even realize it's a game. They think of it as work. Like, what do you do? What is money? Well, it's a job. It's work. It's whatever. But the fact that he calls it a game, right? And then I love that distinction between the game is money. It's not your vehicle. The vehicle is a vehicle. That's just one of many vehicles. In fact, guys like Andrew and everybody else, I'm like, they have multiple vehicles, right? Yeah. But isn't that crazy how they just think of it? And it's a game, right? But people don't see that.
It is. And Andrew, I love how you refer to money as, you talk about what's another name for money. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, when you come to money,
you're treating it as a game is what you're saying. Like you literally are taking it to the next level. It's a game for you, but now you've really started to gamify it with even kind of your messaging. That's awesome.
Yeah, 100%, because, money itself is the actual game in the sense of, if you asked an MLM person, or if you're listening right now, and when I say, what is your game or what is your business, you naturally name whatever that is. I naturally name, what is my game or what is my business? My business is money. That's the whole reason that you own that salon. I mean, if you think back from the background of it, why would that person take the risk, invest in this thing, quit their job? Why do they do all this stuff? Well, it's simple. It's because they wanted to make more money. So understand, the reason this person started this business was because they wanted to make more money. Therefore, what they really want is money. But we're afraid to go down that road kind of because it was a taboo topic. Kind of as a kid growing up, we're not allowed to kind of go down it. So we're trying to substitute, entrepreneurs are trying to substitute the vehicle for the game. And the game is always money movement. I don't care what vehicle you use. There's 1,000 vehicles there.
But here's what's crazy. Is there a point in time where people, you're right, they completely don't get that the game is money. They think it's the vehicle. But for some reason, as entrepreneurs, people, and I've done it before, they associate their identity with the vehicle. Is it because at some point they somehow tie themselves so much to the vehicle with their identity that they lose track of the fact that it's the game? Like, does that make sense? You see what I'm saying? Like, people think they are a hairstylist, not just that the hairstylist or the entrepreneur or the car wash or whatever is the vehicle, but they actually think that's their identity.
Yeah. And a lot of it just goes to, it's kind of why I love this concept of, I just love entrepreneurship or business financial literacy, which is kind of what we're talking about here, because what you're talking about is so true. I mean, they get caught up on, and there's a great book, if you guys enjoy reading, an old book that I read called E-Myth by Michael Gerber, kind of an old school book there, but one of the original books talking about it. And it's just talking about, as an entrepreneur, you get overwhelmed and you hyper focus and you kind of absorb and become this, cake baker, and you started this bakery, but you identify and become the baker. In reality, an entrepreneur and a business person wants to own the bakery, not be the baker inside of it. And that's where they get that identity. I want to go back to a point because I was about to go down it, and Zan was talking about it. When I talk about money movement, last little point here I'll make, and I teach, Zan knows this, I can teach 3 days straight on this topic of money movement.
Non-stop. I know. I wish we had like days here.
Unlimited. Yeah. But understanding in money, one or two things has to move to generate money. Either you have to move or money has to move. those are the two things that can move. So as you're in your life, as your viewers are listening, ask yourself a simple question: what moves more, you or money? And what you'll find is, for most entrepreneurs, and for sure for most traditional consumers, they move the most. They wake up and go to work. They have to go do this. They go do this. They go make this deal. They go make this close. They go make this sale, whatever it is. And they're the ones that move. And so to understand true success in money, you'd have to switch that focus, understand that what has to move is money. And the last point I want to make here between you move or money moves is this. If you trace back the word of money and we just understand the origin of that word coming from money movement, I'm going to break it down for you like this. If you're listening today, what is another word for the word money? Or, and Zan, I'll do it with you and George, just so the listeners can play along here. But what is another word for the word money? Kind of an older word that we would use for the word money. What's another word for money, Zan?
Well, I know the answer you're looking for, but it's currency.
Currency, right? So look, if you're listening today, the word money kind of came from the word currency, right? I mean, that's kind of like the older word that we would use, especially if you go back hundreds of thousands of years ago. They kind of use that word currency a lot. Well, if you chase back the origin of the word currency, meaning if you're listening right now, where does the word currency or the originating word for the word currency come from? Meaning, where did that word come from? What's the derivative of that word? And Zan, I know you know the answer. What's the word currency come from?
Comes from the word current.
Current. So the word money comes from currency. Currency comes from the word currents. Okay. So for you to have currency, just understand it was born out of the word of currents. Now I live in Florida, right? And I live on the beach in Florida, and the ocean is in front of my house right there. For there to be a wave, for that water to have a current inside of it, right? For there to be a current, the water has to be doing something. So to create a current in that ocean, the water has to be doing something. What does the water have to be doing to create a current, Zan?
Has to be moving.
Has to be moving, my friend. So if you understand the freaking origin of money, it comes from the word of movement. The water has to be moving constantly. And I can go deeper into it for a second time. I won't. But in Florida, we also have oceans. We also have swamps. And those swamps, that's where there's dead, stagnant water. And that there's dead, stagnant water because the water is not moving. In your life, if you want to have money, my friend, you are either the ocean, which is constantly flowing and creating currents, currency, and money, or you are like a dead swamp and your money is not moving and it's getting dead and stagnant. And the crazy part of this that I love, that you could probably tell how much I love this topic, but if the game of money movement is going to be played with or without your decision.
Oh, man.
You're already playing the game, okay? I'm just explaining it to you, but everybody listening right now, you can disagree and say it doesn't matter to me. This is the law of money. The law of money is that money must constantly move. Whether you want it to or not, I promise you it does. And I could break it down in sessions with you, but the money constantly has to be moving. And everybody listening right here, you're playing it. So go back and ask yourself, how are you playing it? Do you move or it moves? If you want money, you gotta move.
I tell you, that is so huge, and it's so funny you say that. I'm kind of smirking with Zan because we were having a conversation before this because we were talking about, I've been doing a bunch with the foreign exchange market recently, and digital currency and things like that. And the bottom line is, that's something that I've been hearing recently is that, look, the bottom line is, if most people looked at the amount of money that moved through their bank accounts that they never made anything on, it would blow their freaking mind. They're like, hey, I don't have enough money. No, in your lifetime, you're going to have millions of dollars probably go through your bank account. The bottom line is you're not the one making money, but trust Andrew, trust Zan, trust myself when we say the foreign exchange market, for example, $7 trillion a day in flow, in flow. Movement. People are making money on the movement of currency itself. But I wish we had a lot more time. I love this whole concept because we haven't even really gotten into a whole bunch of the meat, and I know we've only got a few minutes more, but I love the concept that what you're doing is you're breaking down what people how they need to view money, what they need to start understanding, because I think if you learn the game like you're saying and you understand that, well, then it's a game, then everything changes. Now you can start talking about vehicles, you can start. So tell us with your training of what you do with people. Because Dan was telling me this before. I mean, there's people that are spending thousands and thousands over the years just to talk to you, sit with you, be in front of you. What do you tell people is the place to start? What is it they need to start sort of structuring their mind around when it comes to money? You know, you talk about being able to protect it and grow it and things like that. What do they need to do? Where do they start? Like, how do they, if they understand the money, now what do they do?
And let me even add to that, Andrew, that, people are paying thousands of dollars to come and listen to you. Yet every single event we did, they would come and tell me, I got my money's worth. So you're giving them a lot of great information. I love to hear that. And so, we just appreciate you being here and sharing some of these things with our audience.
Yeah, no,
what
dude,
would your next
I love
step?
this.
Like, what would you tell people?
The question is, what would I tell people kind of as they grow? Before I do that, I want to hit one current point for current time. And George, I want to kind of tee off on that Forex thing for you.
Yeah.
When we talk about money movement, if you understand as it gets bigger here, the reason that we're all worried about, or people that are worried about the economy coming to a screeching halt because of this coronavirus and how the coronavirus affects the market of money will stop. And so as we're all kind of in our houses, not working, what that is doing is it's stopping the flow or the movement of money taking place. It is why the Federal Reserve, if you watch it, did two things. They dropped that interest rate to zero right away. Okay, why does the Federal Reserve do that? Because the truth of the whole game is the movement of money. So when the Federal Reserve drops that interest rate to zero, they're doing that because it will allow the lenders then, the Federal Reserve here, lenders and brokers below them, it allows them to borrow that money cheaper and then to move that money on the market cheaper for us, the users, the consumers of that market. So the Federal Reserve drops it to zero because it's coronavirus time is because of money movement. Then second thing they do is if you watch them, they say, hey, the Federal Reserve said we're gonna buy $1.5 trillion worth of derivatives, which is just, again, they're going to buy these loans, if you will, from the lenders, from the banks, and they're going to invest, the Federal Reserve invest $1.5 trillion into it. Why would they do it all of a sudden? It's simple, because they want to free up the money for the banks so the banks will continue to move that money to keep the whole market and economy going. So just recapping here, any level of this game of money, all the way up to the Federal Reserve of how our national economy works, it is simply based off of money movement. And I just wanted to add that point because of the coronavirus. And when you hear people talk about, I'm afraid about the market, that's it. It means that they're afraid that the movement of money stops. Now, to move on here, and sorry, do you guys want to follow? Did you have
no? But Andrew, what you're making is a very valid point to the listeners, and that is you don't necessarily have to control the movement all the time. You don't have to. You got to understand that money moves. That's the game, and if you work with that, that's where the opportunity presents itself. So with that said, maybe that kind of segues you into what Zan was saying. So what do you tell people? What do you tell people they need to start doing, and how do they do it? Where can they start with this?
Yeah, so I would say I call it the money is math, okay? And this is just pulling from all these people that I've worked with, all these people that I have spent time with, the O'Learys and so forth, and I kind of pulled from them this kind of structure, and I just call it the money is math. And it's very simple, man. It's simple. I use these words. It's opportunity plus structure plus action equals success. It's not hard to understand this. I think sometimes entrepreneurs, we get over fantasized into there's these 95,000 things we have to go do to create success. And I grew up in a family that go back to my dad for a second, used to always tell me as a kid the word KISS. Which, if you guys know, stands for keep it simple, stupid. And I think in the game of money, especially, we over fantasize on this concept and make it bigger than what it is. And what we should be understanding is, dude, whatever business you want to do right now is great. I'm not here to tell you what business to do, but it's simple. It's opportunity plus structure plus action equals success. Breaking that down, we kind of already covered, George, opportunity, meaning the market right now will produce a massive opportunity from this. If you guys study the K-wave and how the market works, wealthy people want the market to move. We want the market to go up and down because it creates opportunity. So opportunity, what we kind of covered, or your business, money movement, plus structure. And I think that one right there is the one that people miss the most. And it's the one that I missed. It's why I crashed in 2008. It's why I lost everything. It's also the reason why I have the wealth that I have now is that one, is the structure piece. And it's the one that most people miss. And what I mean by structure is when it comes to structuring your business, your deals, your investments, wealthy people just do it differently. And they do three things. Wealthy people have mastered the art of controlling more of their money, keeping more of their money, and protecting their money. Wealthy people have mastered that art right there of control, keep, and protect. And inside of that, you have this like entrepreneur, 99% of the people, and the 1%ers, right? We've all heard in America, you got the 99%ers and the 1%ers, meaning the middle class or the lower middle class and the wealthy. What does this wealthy side do differently is they understand how to control their money more, meaning the right entities, the right structure, the right CPAs. They understand how to keep their money more. And by keeping it means this. You ever hear these stories, George, where these companies or very wealthy individuals, you'll see them on news and it's like, oh, this person, this investor or business owner has made X amount of millions of dollars this year, but pay nothing in taxes. You ever see those stories before, George, on news and stuff? And the question, like, for me was like, what the hell are you talking about? How did you make $19 million and pay nothing in taxes? Because from my side, pre-2008, the game was, and this so many of your listeners, I promise you I'm hitting a chord right here for you. The way you started your structure or you started your business was you went and called a buddy of yours or a friend or the family CPA that's done your taxes forever, or a buddy's who's an attorney who just graduated college, or you went to LegalZoom or whatever it is. And you kind of started your business from that model right there, which is not anywhere close to the right way. And so what happens is that, and I'm going to say how I did it, and your listeners, if you're listening, think this through. When I started my business prior to 2008, understanding how the wealthy business structure worked was I would make money in my business, and at the end of the year, I did not want to pay taxes. So the way I would go back to my CPA at the end of the year and say, here's how much money I made, or here's all my income. And the game that I was playing pre-2008 was I would try to make money and then pay nothing in taxes by what we refer to as tax deductions, which simply meant for me to get the deduction, I had to spend the money. So at the end of the year, what most entrepreneurs want their CPA to say is, oh, great news, Andrew. This is your third year in business and you're negative $33,000 again. Great. You don't owe anything in taxes. Great news. And I was excited about it. I'm like, oh my God, my CPA is a genius. I'm not going to pay in taxes. And it's like, no, dude, because that same person, I don't care how you want to cut that piece of pie up, is still broke. Because at the end of the year, you're negative $33,000. So you can talk about you have this car, you have this house, you go on these vacations, you have all this stuff. But listen to me. At the end of the year, you're still broke. And the wealthy understand a different game. The wealthy understand how to make that you made $1 million, but you spend $1 million to pay zero. The wealthy understand how to make that same $1 million, but at the end of the year, they'll keep that $1 million. They'll keep all of it. So one side made $1 million and spent $1 million, so they're at zero. And the wealthy made $1 million, kept $1 million, and they're at $1 million. And then that just grows and grows and compounds and compounds.
And compounds, yeah.
Oh,
man,
exactly.
You're killing it. And it's funny because to give a frame of reference for that, Andrew, most of our audience knows, because one of the companies I own and another one that I work with closely do these high net worth asset protection events every quarter. And people, 300-400 millionaires fly in just to protect their assets and reduce taxes and avoid lawsuits. And that's the thing, you can call it secrets of the high net worth or, 7, 8, 9 figure guys like yourself. The bottom line is it's just structure. I think some entrepreneurs though, they hear structure and they get in the detail and the weeds. What you're saying is how you transact, build, grow, and think about money. And I love what you're saying there. Give me one more time the 3 steps, because you talk about control, keep, and protect, control. What were the 3 that you said?
So wealthy people understand how to control money, keep money, and protect money.
Protect it, perfect.
At a very, very high level. And here's the secret. Here's the secret, George. Because sometimes as I deal with entrepreneurs around the world, and entrepreneurs that have, they're saying, hey, I got this business and I'm making, $1.9 million a year. And I've got these, I had a student of mine that owned 9 eye glasses businesses, right? And he was, we were talking about this because he was making millions of dollars, but didn't know what the heck to do with it because, he was just paying all this amount of money. And the issue that these people run into, or entrepreneurs are starting off when they're making 80 grand a year, you're still at zero because you spent all of it every single year. The difference is they don't know how to control it. And by control, I mean, is understanding what entity would allow you throughout that year to control more of your money. And there's everything from C Corps to S Corps to GLPs to FLPs to partnerships. There's all kinds of different ones, sole proprietorships. It's understanding which one fits you better. And what happens is, go back to the story I was telling you, George, you know this, but a lot of times we don't actually ever go through as a startup person, not knowing anything. I didn't know all that stuff. And
where would you even go? There's no.
So we just kind of called our CPAs, right? Our buddies of a buddy or whatever it was. And they're like, oh, use this one. And then we talk about keeping it. Now, here's what's crazy, George. When you get to high levels of keeping money, I'll play this game with you that I play with Zan in the class all the time. If I asked one of your listeners right now, in their business, whatever it is, right? Whatever their business is, if I said, hey, come up here and tell me the top 5 things to be successful as a franchisee. And Zan, you've done franchises and franchise. So tell me the 5 top things to be a franchisee, right? Those people would have no problem just boom, boom, boom. Here's what not to do. Here's what to do. Here's what works. Here's what doesn't work, etc. But if I asked the question and said, hey, tell me the 5 tax-free accounts the wealthy use to create generational wealth, you would see that same person go dead quiet. Look, I've done this example, and Zan knows it. I've done this example.
That's real?
In front of probably 50,000 people. And every time I do it, Zan, you can testify this, the room goes dead silent. Because when you get to this next level of understanding how to make millions of dollars and then pay nothing in taxes the legal way, boy, if I ask again, go to these viewers and say, tell me the 5 accounts that we use, that the wealthy people use to do this, that it happens, you see it happen, but if I ask you how it happens, they have no clue. And this is what I'm saying. There's these different levels of this game. If I take it back to sports, Zan, it's like saying there's Little League baseball, there's high school baseball, there's, college baseball, there's minor league baseball, there's the majors, and then there's the Hall of Fame. In the game of money, it's the same thing. There's these different levels, and most entrepreneurs are still at this Little League, maybe high school level of money. And I'm trying to show you how the Hall of Fame of money freaking works. And in a quick point here, and I'll give it back to you guys. I have a tendency to talk too long, and I'm sorry.
No, it's good, man. I wish we had more time. Geez, we're like almost out of time here. Keep going.
I own businesses. This is how crazy it works. I own businesses that at the end of the year, no matter how much money I make in these businesses, all of my profit will go back into my personal retirement account, 100% tax-free. So if my business makes $5 million that year, at the end of it, what most people would do is they would never get to $5 million because they're going to try to spend it and deduct and deduct and deduct. The difference is I don't want to play that game. That's like the poor man's version of the game. I want to make as much as possible because at the end of the year, I'm going to shift that $5 million into my personal retirement account, and I'll pay nothing in taxes on it. On the entire $5 million, I won't pay anything in taxes on it. And now my retirement account, I'm 37 right now. Now my retirement account, because of that one business and the proper structure, just put $5 million in my retirement, and I pay nothing in taxes. So
what's interesting?
Go ahead, Zan. Sorry, bro.
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say,
I gotta take a breath.
When you're talking about, kind of relating this to sports, people need to be willing to invest in themselves. And when you play Little League, it's very cheap to get into Little League. You start getting into high school, college, you got to put more money in. There's more investment into it and a higher reward coming out. And I think some people think that they can get their entities set up properly on their own. They can go do it on their own, but you've got to find the right people to get you set up right.
And any investment, any business, right? You got to invest in yourself. That's a great point. And that's people
point, Dan.
Right?
Yes.
Because what they're wanting is they're wanting the Hall of Fame style money, but they're wanting to play with Little League baseball rules. Mm-hmm. And that's not the same thing. If you want that Hall of Fame money, as you're listening to me today, you've got to be willing to play like the Hall of Famers play. And there's a great book, Zan. I made our team read it years ago, called Relentless. If you remember that book by Tim Grover. And Tim Grover is a great author. And in his book, he talks about he trained Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Kobe Bryant that passed away. He trained these guys. And he tells you the difference between that type of individual, that type of Hall of Fame sport athlete, or their personality, what's inside of them, compared to average other players out there. And most entrepreneurs, you want to get that level because you want to take care of your family. You want to pay off your mom and dad's house. You want to change your sisters. Maybe you got sisters or brothers, or you got kids and so forth. And you have all these dreams. Well, you need that Major League Baseball or Hall of Fame in this example type of money, but you keep playing on a little league structure and it never produces. I don't care how much you work. One of the points that kind of me and Gary Vee disagree upon is Gary Vee is all about, you got to grind and hustle and hustle and grind and hustle. There is truth to that for sure. But grinding without the right structure is irrelevant. You have to grind and hustle with the right structure, and it will get you to where you want. Grinding just to grind and hustle just to hustle. Listen, my dad, and Zen, I know your father as well, my dad was one of the hardest freaking workers there was. I mean, this dude would teach all day, and then he would have my other side of my family does electrical work, and they're licensed electricians. And my dad would teach all day and then go try to do electrical work on the side and weekend work down at the local union. And in the summer, he would go get a job as an electrician and work double. It doesn't matter how much you work. At the end of the day, 30 years later, guess what my dad was? Broke. So it's not a matter of just grinding to work.
No, that's so true.
Grinding with the right structure will produce what you're looking for. So that's my point to your listeners there.
You know what? I totally agree with that as well. And I realize that also it is a mindset, because like Zan said, people are willing to justify in their mind investing time and energy and money or grind into certain things, but not into things that over time have proven to create success, which is the ultra high net worth. There's something to be said for people that make money, make more money. Yeah, because they know how to make money. They know the game. So, man, I hate that we're out of time, but I'll tell you, I want to make one point, and then I want to kind of wrap up here. The bottom line is this. I love the concepts you have because they fall right in line with what I believe people need to do and our listeners need to do. They need to understand what the real game of money is. They need to understand that there are structures, there are methods, there's strategies and things you can do because you don't normally learn these things anywhere else. But the bottom line is the more you educate, the more you learn, the more you associate with individuals like yourself that do it and understand it, the more you also realize it's not as risky as you think, because when you learn the rules of the game and you learn how to play the game, you just can create more success. And the more success you get, the more you're outside your comfort zone, you're comfortable. I talk a lot on this podcast about belief transference. One of the 12 prosperity principles we have is surround yourself with positive, successful people. The reason is because when we're around and we're sitting here listening to Andrew today, you just feel like you're going to get this belief transference because we know that this is true. You're living it. You have it. You've learned it. So knowing that we just don't have a lot of time, I'm hoping that you might have a way that we can have our listeners kind of connect with you. Tell us, sort of as we wrap up here, how do they best connect with you? What can we do to get them connected with you? Because you clearly have so much more we want them to learn from. So how is the best way we can get people connected with you?
Yeah, so I would say two things. Look, most of the time when I do stuff like this with podcasts, which I do quite a few of, normally what I do is I just give away a book, which is just my Money Is book. And I'm happy to do that, for your clients as well. As I was thinking about this one, I've got one more podcast later today as well, which I'll be doing the book on. But Zan is truly, literally like a dear friend of mine. We've traveled for years together. So included with the book, I'm going to do one more thing for your listeners, George, if you want, which is for your guys' listeners, if you want a free 20-minute consultation on how this game of money is actually played. For your listeners, I'd be willing to do set up a 20-minute consultation of just understanding how that game of money is played. So if they want it, they can just go to my website, www.moneyiz.com/consultation. If you go right there, we can set you up on a calendar. You can pick a time. I can set you up. And Zan knows this. I never, ever do. This is not a sales game.
That's amazing.
And not to be confused with your logo kind of behind you where it's Money Is blank with a period. It's money, MONEYIS.com/consultation. That's amazing to be able to do that with a book and a consultation. And obviously they're going to be able to find you at Andrew Cordle on Instagram, Facebook. What's your primary best way to communicate outside of your website?
Probably hit me on social media. So I probably do Instagram the most. So you can hit me on Andrew Cordle on Instagram. Or if you want to email me directly, I don't mind you emailing me directly. It's just andrew@moneyis.com. I know your viewers, and I'm doing stuff I normally don't do. I know that your listeners, your viewers are more educated, entrepreneurs, solid individuals. So I'm probably doing a little bit more than I normally do. Not probably, I am doing more than I normally do. It's just different from, a normal, like my next podcast, it's a totally different concept. I just give the book to them. But yeah, you could go to, and if you want to email me directly, andrew@moneyis.com, or you can.
I'll put it in the link. I'll put the link in the show notes so that we can go people will know where they can go and what they can do. Zan, is there anything else that you want to kind of add as we kind of wrap up here? We went a little longer than normal, but it was worth every minute, and I wish we could have kept actually going, so we're going to have Andrew back. But what else would you add to this?
Well, not a lot. I mean, I know that I appreciate what you're offering. It means a lot, and it's a huge deal. I mean, be able to give 20 minutes of your time to our listeners is pretty special. So thank you so much.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
You're awesome, man. We appreciate it. We love it. We're going to definitely have you back. But once again, just getting your time and your knowledge. And so I'd recommend everybody here, go check it out, get some more information, learn really what you need to know to understand this game of money and the flow of money and what you need to do to be able to grow and protect it. And that's our message for today. So thanks for tuning in. You are absolutely the average of the people you hang out with. Today you've been hanging out with Andrew, Zan, and George. So look forward to talking with you more tomorrow. This has been George Wright III, Zan Horlocker, and Andrew Cordle. Have a great day.